Developing right now on Morning News Now, a severe setback for Iranian leadership. This morning, 2 of the country's top security and military officials are dead as Israel intensifies its attacks on Tehran and across the Middle East. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department ordering a security review at all U.S. embassies and consulates worldwide after an attack on a U.S. embassy in Baghdad. And in Washington, President Trump slamming the now former counterterrorism chief Joe Kent, who resigned yesterday over the war with Iran.
It's a good thing that he's out because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
All this as U.S. forces work to reopen the critical Strait of Hormuz without support from NATO allies. We will bring you the latest from the Middle East. Also this morning, a split screen of extreme weather from coast to coast. Out west, a historic heat wave sending temperatures soaring, while in parts of the east, millions of people are digging out from a late winter snowstorm. Our Angie Lastman is here tracking it all so you can plan ahead. Plus, bad bet, popular prediction platform Kalshi now facing criminal charges in Arizona over allegations of illegal gambling. How the legal fight could have impacts nationwide. And a change of heart when it comes to Americans' cholesterol levels. The new guidelines just issued for screening and treatment that experts say could help save lives. Important stuff there. Importantly, new medication options.
Exactly.
Well.
We'll dig into it in our health checkup in a little bit. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for starting your Wednesday with us. We begin this morning with the latest on the war with Iran. Iran has now confirmed that their top security official, Ali Larijani, who had become one of the regime's most powerful surviving figures, is dead. That is according to a statement from Iran's Security Council that was shared on Telegram by an Iranian news agency, adding that the leader's son and a number of guards were also killed.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard has also confirmed the death of the head of its all-volunteer Basij force. That's the key militia used to suppress protests in the Islamic Republic. Israel had announced yesterday that both leaders were killed in airstrikes Monday night. This morning, Iran says that it is retaliating with strikes against Israel for the assassination of its security leader. In a piece of breaking news, Israel says that last night it also killed Iran's intelligence minister. Iran has not yet commented on that new claim. As the fighting rages on back at home, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has resigned. Kent, a longtime supporter of the president, cited the war with Iran. He wrote in his resignation letter that he could not in good conscience support the war, saying that Iran posed no imminent threat to the U.S. The White House is rejecting Kent's claims, with President Trump calling Kent weak on security. We have a team in place this morning to help us break down the latest, including the war's ongoing political and economic fallout. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Beirut with more. Raf, good morning. Let's start with Iran confirming the death of those key leaders. We were discussing this yesterday. On top of that, we know the new supreme leader was injured. So just what kind of leadership vacuum does this create inside the country? And at this point, who does the U.S. even negotiate with?
Guys, good morning. It's a really good question because almost all of the Iranian regime's previous senior leadership have now been killed, starting with Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, but then many of his top security officials. And as you say, we now have confirmation that Ali Larijani, the head of the National Security Council, was indeed killed in those Israeli strikes Monday night. Now, Larijani is a key figure. Nobody would describe him as a moderate, but he was seen as a pragmatist. And when there were discussions about who might be the figure inside the regime that could play the role that Delcy Rodriguez played in Venezuela, an insider in the government who the Trump administration could do business with, Larijani's name was one of those that came up. He obviously is not going to be able to play that role now. And so it is really unclear if and when the White House wants to try to make a deal with Iran, who you would actually call. One name in the mix, the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, is, for now anyway, still alive. He's seen as a relatively hardline figure, but also somebody potentially with the clout to make a deal. Guys.
Raf, are we seeing Iran retaliate against Israel for the death of these leaders?
Yeah, so we saw quite intensive Iranian strikes aimed at Tel Aviv last night. 2 people were killed. This is an elderly couple in a suburb of Tel Aviv, and they were killed apparently trying to get to their bomb shelter as Iranian cluster munitions were going off above them. And guys, these weapons are deadly. They basically explode at a high altitude, and they send smaller bomblets scattering down to earth in a wide-ish area. Human rights groups have said that their use in populated areas may constitute a war crime. And even though Israel's air defenses are for the most part holding out, these weapons are quite difficult to intercept because these individual bomblets are really no bigger than soccer balls.
Yeah, Richard Engel has been giving us a good look at those weapons over the last few days. Raf, we should also talk about oil. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said Tuesday oil tankers are beginning to move through that critical Strait of Hormuz that U.S. Central Command says the military bombed Iranian missile launchers near that critical shipping passageway. Is there signs that the strait is starting to open up? If so, how much?
So, Joe, we are starting to see a trickle of oil tankers going through the straits now, and it tends to be tankers that are flying under the flag of countries with which Iran has good relations. So some Pakistani tankers, some Chinese ones. It is still a trickle, just a fraction of what the normal traffic would be. And you can see in the oil prices that the fact that some tankers are making it through is not making a huge, huge difference. We're still seeing oil hovering at about $100 a barrel. What we are seeing is a number of these big oil-producing countries trying to find alternative routes to get their oil out. We saw yesterday the government of Iraq has made a deal with Turkey to try to get its oil out via a pipeline in that direction. Again, that is doing a little bit to calm the oil markets, but it's really no substitute for the Strait of Hormuz. Guys.
Also, let's talk about Lebanon, where you are now. It's become a critical battleground in this war. Israel's been targeting the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah there. More than 2,200 people have been killed across the Middle East since this war began, and that includes about 900 in Lebanon by Israeli strikes. The UN reports that at least 111 of those were children. What is the latest on the ground there?
So, Savannah, Israel was pounding here in central Beirut overnight, carrying out a number of strikes, which the Israeli military said were aimed at a financial institution with commercial links to Hezbollah. We could hear those explosions. In fact, one of the buildings that we visited yesterday, which had been damaged in a previous strike, was totally destroyed today. Human rights groups have warned that these strikes may be a war crime, given that this is a commercial entity rather than a strict military target. And at this point, more than 1 million Lebanese have been displaced by the fighting. That's basically 1 in 5 people in this country. Guys.
Raf Sanchez reporting from Beirut. Raf, thank you so much.
We have NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joining us now with more on the latest from Washington. Megan, good morning. So Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, very publicly announced his resignation over the war in Iran. Tell us what he said about his motivation and what the president had to say about it.
Yeah, good morning. This is significant because this is the first notable resignation over the president's handling of the war in Iran. Now, he directly attributed his resignation to the war, releasing a statement and his letter of resignation where he said that Iran posed no imminent threat to the country, to the nation. Now, he criticized the U.S. decision to get involved, arguing that the war started due to pressure from Israel. Now, in his letter of resignation, he also referenced things like him being a former combat veteran and his wife dying. His wife had died in 2019 in a terrorist bombing in Syria. Now, I want to read you a line from his letter that stood out. He wrote, "I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives." Now, President Trump responded to Joe Kent's resignation yesterday. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Well, I read it. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was.
We also heard yesterday from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who said that President Trump had strong and compelling evidence that Iran was going to attack the U.S. first, guys.
Megyn, Kent's resignation is putting his former boss, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, in the spotlight again, and she is expected to testify today before a Senate committee. How did she respond to Kent's resignation? And just looking forward, what kind of questions will she likely face later today?
Yeah, so Kent served under Tulsi Gabbard, and we're expecting to hear directly from her and other top intelligence and law enforcement officials from the administration as they testify before senators today in a worldwide threats hearing. Now, we heard yesterday from Gabbard, who in a post, she didn't directly say Kent's name, but she wrote that basically as commander-in-chief, it's President Trump who determines what is considered an imminent threat. And she wrote that after he reviewed the information, as you can see on your screen, quote, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamic regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. So in the hearing today, we can expect this to be a very prominent topic of conversation. Lawmakers can ask about any worldwide threat. And Gabbard, I do want to note, has largely been quiet during the war in Iran. So it'll be really interesting to watch what she has to say.
Megyn, also amid all this, the president has been sort of walking back these requests for help with the Strait of Hormuz. Yesterday, the president said that the U.S. does not need the help of European allies to reopen this critical waterway. What can you tell us about why the president changed his mind, what that means?
Yeah, so President Trump said yesterday that allies were reluctant to get involved. And he also said, though, that the U.S. does not want their help. So take a look at what he wrote in a post to Truth Social. He wrote, because of the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did. He also wrote, we do not need the help of anyone. Now, I want to note that this comes after President Trump had said that he wanted help from countries in reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which is a major shipping route that Iran has vowed to keep closed. And I want to note as well that just 24 hours before he posted that, he had basically expressed that countries had responded positively to him wanting help in reopening the strait, guys.
All right, Megyn, thank you so much.
For more on the resignation of top counterterrorism official Joe Kent, let's bring in Jamil Jaffer. He's the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute at the Antonin Scalia Law School of George Mason University. Jamil, good to have you with us. Start by telling us just your initial reaction to Kent's resignation and the reason he cited. I mean, what stood out to you most?
I think what was really interesting about Joe Kent's resignation, besides stating his opposition to the war in Iran, it did take him 3 weeks to get to this point. I mean, one of the things that was, I think, particularly notable was his claim that the war was fomented by Israel, its quote-unquote powerful lobby in America. And he claimed that the war in which his wife was tragically killed in 2019, the war in Syria, was manufactured by Israel. Obviously, that's not accurate. That's not correct. In fact, that suggests a lot of interesting things about Joe Kent's reasons for resignation and his departure. The reality is that the reason we were in Syria was because of ISIS. The reason we're in Iran is because Iran sought a nuclear program and has repeatedly killed Americans over the last, dozen years. So we know that Iran is a threat to the United States, and Joe Kent, being the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, should know that. And it's really interesting that he's now created this divide between himself and the president, and maybe even the director of national intelligence, who put out this very carefully worded statement that Megyn was referring to, but that didn't go so far as to say she supported the war in Iran or did the intelligence supported it either. So it's a very interesting dynamic that we'll see play out today at the Intelligence Committee when she testifies.
Do you think that this is representative of more cracks in support from the president's own base and this campaign promise to not start foreign wars we've heard come up a lot from Republicans? Do you think that this is kind of a symptom of that?
Well, there's no doubt, Savannah, that there's been a fracture in the MAGA base for President Trump, and that the war is part of that divide. That being said, this war still pulls strongly amongst Republicans generally and amongst MAGA Republicans. That being said, you're likely to see Joe Kent go on Tucker Carlson's show here in the next few days. That'll continue this fracture between parts of the Republican Party over this conflict. And, of course, the president faces the challenge at home of rising oil prices, regardless of what party you're in or whether you back the president or not. That's going to be a political challenge for the United States and for the president as he goes forward with a conflict that I think is, in fact, causing him those political challenges domestically.
Jamil, beyond the politics here, just many Americans are worried since the war began. We've seen the explosives thrown at the mayor's home in New York City. We've seen a shooting at a campus in Virginia, the attack on that synagogue in Michigan. To those who are scared right now, what is your message? And are we seeing more security measures in vulnerable places over the past couple weeks in response to these threats?
Well, certainly you're seeing increased security at synagogues, at places of worship, mosques, and the like, because there is a threat of potential increased terrorism, one from Iran and its proxies. We know that they've supported Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hamas over the last few decades. That's a huge problem, and they could activate some of those sleeper cells that may very well be present in the United States and in Europe. They haven't done that yet, but we'll see what happens. We know that the Iranians have long tried to kill American and foreign government officials in the United States, plotting against the Saudi ambassador, plotting against senior former Trump administration officials for years now. So that's a real threat. And then beyond that, we do see this rising trend of both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism inside the United States. That's also a threat that can cause people to lash out and act irrationally and conduct terrorist attacks in the United States. So there are dual sets of problems coming to bear that could really cause challenges here domestically or in Europe as well.
Jamil Jaffer, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Well, this morning, a heat wave is bringing another day of triple-digit temperatures out west. We're only halfway through March, but the National Weather Service has had to issue an extreme heat warning for parts of Southern California and northern Arizona. At the other end of the extreme, people in the Midwest are digging out from that historic blizzard that dropped record-breaking amounts of snow over the past few days. So we have that blast of winter weather. We also have the annual influx of spring break travelers. And then, of course, TSA agents also calling out sick because they're not being paid due to the government shutdown. All that is causing these major delays at our nation's airports. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the details.
Stunning new video shows this Michigan neighborhood completely submerged under mountains of snow, here reaching as high as roofs. Now, sub-zero wind chills, freezing piles twice as tall as parked cars. This family's front door, impassable. In Wisconsin, car after car stranded along this Green Bay highway. Entire cities buried. Storms raging out east, too, with more than a dozen semis and cars wrecked in upstate New York and severe winds toppling massive trees in Massachusetts and Maryland. This week's wild weather exacerbating America's travel mess. Strong winds grounding flights at Houston's Bush International Airport. Stranded passengers sleeping on cots. United Airlines sending hundreds to hotels and transforming Terminal C into sleeping quarters. Atlanta's airport seeing long lines as TSA callouts mount amid the government shutdown. At Philadelphia International, TSA closing additional security checkpoints due to staffing woes. More than 1,000 flights canceled nationwide. Mother Nature's wrath also felt out west, with triple-digit temps roasting Arizona, Nevada, and California, and windy, dry conditions fueling historic wildfires in Nebraska, leaving one person dead and more than 700,000 acres burned.
The days ahead are really, really high risk.
A brutal combination of fire and ice wreaking havoc coast to coast. And speaking of ice, this massive, like 20-foot tall mountain behind me, this is all snow just cleared from the streets of Waukesha, Wisconsin. Cleanup across the entire Midwest. That's expected to take days. Back to you.
All right, Maggie, thank you.
Our look at the coast-to-coast extreme weather continues with what you can expect where you live.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman has our morning news now forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. We've got some chilly air in place across specifically parts of the south, but a lot of the east. Let's start with those freeze alerts, though, stretching from Louisiana across parts of the southeast down into the northern portions of Florida. And we're going to see more than 21 million people this morning dealing with those temperatures flirting with freezing. And the potential is there for a couple of record lows. We're looking at Mobile, Wilmington, temperatures right around freezing in both of those spots, waking up to the chilly conditions in Atlanta as well. 35 degrees in Nashville this morning. Those temperatures are going to have a tough time rebounding even as we get into the afternoon hours. Across parts of the Great Lakes in the Northeast, the chilly conditions have settled in there as well. 17 degrees in Detroit right now, but feeling like just 9. Those single-digit feels like temperatures in Green Bay as well. 15 degrees for your actual temperature in Pittsburgh, 26 in New York, and just 18 for what it feels like when you get out the door this morning in New York City. Meanwhile, the western half of the country is just baking. We've got this kind of strong high-pressure setup that's sitting over this portion of the country. All of that means that we've got sinking air, keeping all that warm air trapped at the surface. And that is exactly why over the next couple of days, we're going to be concerned about the heat and heat illnesses across this region, with more than 38 million people under these alerts. So here's what we're dealing with as far as that record heat. We've got LA expected to hit 96 degrees, 100 in Phoenix today. I know we expect it to be hot in Phoenix, but that's more than 20 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. It's the 80s across the Rockies, Denver tapping in in at 80 degrees this afternoon. Dodge City, Wichita Falls, Roswell, you name it. We are all at least getting into the 80s for the day today. Tomorrow, not much of an improvement. 90s in Sacramento, 80s still in Denver and Amarillo. El Paso ends up at 91 degrees. And you look even as far east as Little Rock and Topeka, 80 degrees. Those above normal temperatures lasting for the long haul as well. We look to the end of the week, 100 degrees in Las Vegas on Friday, mid-90s. That's all the break that you're going to get by the time Sunday rolls around. And even Oklahoma City, we hang out into the 90s as we roll through the weekend. 89 degrees in Saturday in Denver. So really warm conditions settling in. Otherwise, we've got some quieter conditions on our satellite and radar. Most of the west quiet, but a couple of these snow showers that we'll be dealing with across the Great Lakes and parts of the Midwest. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. Weather aside, Mother Nature put on a totally different kind of show over Ohio yesterday. People are still reeling after seeing a 7-ton meteor crashing toward Earth, waking up the city of Cleveland with a loud boom. Videos taken from several states away show the bright ball of fire streaking across the sky just before it broke apart. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has the story.
Meteoric levels of confusion in Cleveland after a loud boom rang through the region, frightening the pets in this person's backyard and stopping drivers in their tracks.
Whoa, what the was that?
The fireball also spotted as far away as Pittsburgh, streaking through the sky.
Anyone that's in Northeast Ohio, did you hear the loud boom?
It sounded like a freaking bomb went off in the Cleveland area.
NASA says it was a meteor fracturing into small pieces when an asteroid nearly 6 feet in diameter and weighing around 7 tons entered the atmosphere.
The ground beneath my feet was no longer stable.
Ralph Harvey studies planetary materials like these at Case Western Reserve in Ohio.
We're just basically talking about space debris that's falling into the Earth's atmosphere, right? Why don't we hear about this kind of thing more?
Well, the main reason is it's actually more common than most people think. What's different about this one is it came during daylight hours right over a major metropolitan area.
So it turns out.
What are we, dinosaurs?
It's nothing prehistoric or even life-threatening.
There is a huge comet headed towards Earth.
Just a fiery moment shaking up some shocked Ohioans. Sam Brock, NBC News.
Nothing to see here. Just go about your day.
Can you imagine driving on the highway?
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
I feel like I should have been warned about this. Yeah. More to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, matters of the heart. New research shows your risk of heart failure could be predicted by one metric, and it is not your BMI. More on the findings and what doctors want you to know.
Up first, though, after the break, Cuba in crisis. The island nation rocked by an earthquake as it struggles with an energy shortage. We'll take you to Havana next. Stay with us. We are back with a look at the economic and energy crisis in Cuba, which continues to get worse because of the U.S. oil embargo.
Rolling blackouts and fuel shortages are creating major problems, not just for the power grid, but also for hospitals that are dealing with life and death situations. On top of all that, the island was hit yesterday by a magnitude 6 earthquake.
NBC News correspondent George Solis joins us from Havana. George, good morning. First off, can you tell us about the earthquake that hit Cuba yesterday? What kind of impact has it had on a country that is already going through so much?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. It certainly sounds like adding insult to injury, but fortunately so far no injuries have been reported or any deaths. There was no tsunami warning that was also triggered. It was on the eastern part of the island, so we're still waiting to see if any more information surfaces in the coming hours, if not days, about that quake. The bigger story here today is, again, the power. This after the country actually got its power back yesterday. This morning, as a matter of fact, portions of Havana are waking up without power. Just proof of just how fragile the power grid is here, guys.
So, George, we know you visited a hospital in Havana trying to cope with the power outages and the blackouts. What did you hear from doctors and patients about the situation?
Yeah, it was a rare look inside a Cuban hospital, Joe, and what we saw was striking. We were in a room where cancer patients were being treated. One patient telling me she lives about 20 miles away, and getting to and from her appointments has become a challenge, not just because of the distance, but because of the fuel crisis here. She can almost not afford to pay for the transport to get here. She needs life-saving medicine. That's become hard to acquire here. She relies on her faith. She relies on her doctors. She says her biggest fear is having a crisis in the middle of the night and not being able to get to a hospital, saying, I will go to bed thinking I may not be able to wake up in the morning. And doctors there saying they are now skipping meals, even if they've been working 7 or 8 hours a day, simply because they need to make sure their patients eat. And on the subject of medicine, well, you have some medicines that are being refrigerated. And of course, if these blackouts are rolling blackouts, they have to find creative solutions to make sure that medicine stays viable. We're talking about medicine that will lose power in a fridge for 1 to 8 hours, and that may happen up to 3 times a day. So doctors, of course, scrambling to figure out what they can do to provide the best level of care for their patients while navigating these challenges. And one final note, one doctor even telling me he has to walk more than 3 miles to get to work simply because of the fuel crisis here.
George, we mentioned that this crisis is being exacerbated by this U.S. oil embargo. Where do things stand in talks between the U.S. and Cuba right now?
Secretary of State Marco Rubio making it clear that these conversations continue, but there's obviously a lot that needs to be sorted out. Cuba's president on X saying that they receive public threats from the U.S. almost daily. We know that there are conversations happening, but to what extent and what that means for the economic future here of the country still remains to be seen. Here's a little bit more from the Secretary of State.
The embargo is tied to political change on the island. The embargo is codified. And but the bottom line is their economy doesn't work. So they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge.
Yeah, guys, and I have to tell you, just talking to people here in Havana, there is a cautious optimism that some kind of deal, if you will, could be sorted out that helps both sides of the aisle here and helps the government and helps folks prosper. Many of them hoping that at the very least some infrastructure changes can happen so these power outages aren't continuous. Guys?
George Solis, thank you very much.
A planned border wall is sparking controversy along the Rio Grande River in West Texas. The Trump administration is planning more than 120 miles of construction through the rugged Big Bend region. Politically, this is a deep red part of the state. Still, though, some sheriffs, local leaders, and residents are worried. They warn that a massive steel wall could cut off the water supply and damage the environment. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler spoke to one man who says his livelihood depends on access to that river.
It's sunrise on the Rio Grande, and Charlie Angel wonders how many more he'll get to watch here. For more than a decade, he's made the river his life and his livelihood, running canoe tours from his home just off the banks.
And here we are on the banks of the mighty, muddy Rio Grande.
He showed us exactly where that dream might end.
I always knew that if they were going to build a border wall, it would be right here upending my life.
For weeks, letters from Customs and Border Protection have filled his mailbox, confirming those fears, carrying threats of eminent domain.
This describes what the wall will be, where you can see it's called Border Barrier System. It's going to have 30-foot high barrier made of 6-inch square diameter steel bollards, spaced approximately 4 inches apart, access roads, drainage gates.
All of this would essentially take over your entire property.
Yes, absolutely. If they build this wall like they're saying they're going to, you might as well kiss the Rio Grande goodbye because you won't have access to it anymore, and it's going to ruin it environmentally.
This stretch of the border is rugged country, as beautiful as it is deadly. It's why, as the first Trump administration built more than 450 miles of new border wall, working to fulfill one of the president's signature promises, Republicans and Democrats alike around here thought it was unthinkable the blueprints would include them. Until now. DHS is planning more than 120 miles of new wall through the Big Bend, igniting bipartisan pushback, crossing what has long been a red line in some deep red parts of the country.
You can't make a better wall than that right there.
Presidio County Judge Jose Portillo, a Democrat and a retired state police officer, showed us why this region sees the fewest illegal crossings of any stretch of the southern border, even during the migrant surge under President Biden. After all, that wall was built.
Even if they successfully make it this far, they show up with their hands up in the air and they give up. And what they want is food and water.
Border Patrol touted a 74% decline in apprehensions here, from almost 12,000 in fiscal year 2023 to just over 3,000 last year, or under 9 people per day across 517 miles of border. Still, DHS has awarded more than $1 billion in construction contracts for the Big Bend sector so far.
There we go.
Just upriver from Charlie, Esteban Mesa shows us the property his family has held for generations, and the crucial source of water set to be walled off.
So you see, this is where I lift my water.
And if a wall was between your property and the river where you get your water, what would you do?
I don't know. Nothing.
Presidio County Sheriff Danny Dominguez took us to the border he patrols every day.
We don't need a physical wall here.
Last week, he joined the region's 4 other sheriffs, representing 4 deep red counties, signing a letter condemning the plans for a wall. They're pushing for a solution built on surveillance, not steel.
Would a wall make people safer here?
No, I don't think so.
A CBP spokesperson tells us the agency continues to develop and finalize its plans for a wall, focusing on the top operational priorities with historical rates of high illegal entry. As this region braces for construction, law enforcement sees little to gain. The Texans on the Rio Grande see everything to lose.
Fighting for your life stream here.
I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my livelihood, for my career, for my sanity, for my peace of mind. And I'm fighting for the Rio Grande.
Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
Coming up on Morning News Now, the new cholesterol guidelines meant to reduce your risk of heart problems.
Plus, something to think about. Researchers say your brain's aging could be linked to what you've been eating. Our Dr. Sayala is here with that study and more in our weekly checkup after the break. We're back now with our weekly medical checkup. This week we're looking at new guidelines for screening for cholesterol, what that means for you.
Plus how your diet may be able to keep your brain young.
Here to help with these health headlines, NBC News medical reporter Dr. Akshay Sayala. Good to have you with us. So it's not just the American Heart Association. 9 other major medical organizations releasing these new guidelines for screening for cholesterol. What are we learning?
So this is a big deal, guys. Just to put this in context, this doesn't happen that often. The last time this happened was 2018, 2019. So this is the update for what doctors are supposed to be looking for in treating cholesterol. And really the sort of takeaway, the summarize of the points on your screen there is we need to be starting earlier. We need to be starting screening early. We need to be starting treatment early. You know, as young as 30 years old, they're saying to start people on medications. Oh. And, you know, the reason for this, guys, is heart disease is largely a preventable disease. You don't want to wait until it's too late, until you're having chest pain, until you have calcium in your heart. You know, that it's too late at that point. It could be too late. So in this case, they're all about preventive medicine, and we love that. So what are they saying? You know, start younger. Doctors are going to be using a new tool to screen patients as young as 30, and even using things like advanced testing, CT scans of the heart. So doctors' orders, guys, just get screened. You know, so many people in this country don't even get their cholesterol checked. Make sure you're doing it at least once a year, and don't wait until you're 50, 60, 70 to start treatment if you have a problem in your 30s.
Wow. And don't think that you're too young to get screened or anything like that. Okay, another kind of heart-related one here. BMI, traditionally used to predict your risk of heart failure. We have this new study, though. This was presented at the American Heart Association scientific meeting. It basically found that that's not enough. Tell us about this.
So there's a couple ways to look at weight, right? BMI is the big one, and I think most people know what that is. The other one is visceral fat. And a good way to estimate this, have you guys ever heard of waist to hip ratio? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You sort of measure your waist at its narrow point, hip at the widest point, and you divide it. And you can sort of get a better sense of visceral fat. And visceral fat is the amount of fat that surrounds our organs. You know, there's subcutaneous fat, which is like if I pinch my belly right now, you'll see subcutaneous fat. But visceral fat is the fat that surrounds the organs. And, you know, according to this study and a lot of other studies, it's more closely linked to heart failure and other sorts of problems like insulin resistance and chronic disease. So doctor's orders, guys, know your waist to hip ratio. Go run to the store and buy a tape measure. You can do this at home. So waist at the narrow point, hip at the widest point, and divide it. And just know the signs of heart disease. You'd be surprised how many people we see who, you know, they'd be short of breath climbing upstairs or even walking around, and they don't know they have a problem. And if you have anything like that, you know, chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, lightheadedness, vision changes, just talk to your doctor.
Everything we're sort of discussing here falls under the umbrella of healthy diet can help out with these things. And we're speaking of diets, we can actually slow down how quickly your brain ages based on your diet. Tell us about this.
Yeah, you know, everything we just talked about just a few seconds ago also relates to the brain, and this is another addition. This is the MIND diet. So the MIND diet is essentially the Mediterranean diet, a little bit modified for the brain. And the reason you can see on your screen there, it's so, you know, rich in veggies, fruits, nuts, beans, limits the red meat, you know, butter, cheese, a little bit different than the dietary guidelines we just saw released, you know, not too long ago. But the reason this is so important is it may potentially reduce inflammation, reduce how much our brain sort of shrinks in the long term. And they've studied this by actually putting people in MRI scanners. That's what this new study is about. They showed, difference in how much gray matter shrinkage you see from following this diet. And so, guys, the doctor's orders here, one, don't be afraid to try it. It's a pretty delicious diet, the Mediterranean diet. Know your family history. If you have anyone in your family with Alzheimer's, you may be more likely to try this, and make other lifestyle changes. Everything we just talked about, lowering your cholesterol, your blood pressure, blood sugar, those sorts of things all help reverse your brain age, or can help reverse how fast your brain is aging.
How quickly can you see changes, like if you go on a diet like this?
It takes time. This was a period of years, Joe, not days.
Yeah.
But all these things are additive. It's not one over the other. If you do all of these combined, you really can make a difference. Your genes are not your destiny.
Good. Dr. Sayal, good advice. Good to have you with us.
That was good. Thank you.
All right, coming up, a funding fight between New York subway officials and the Trump administration. More on this multi-million-dollar lawsuit just filed by the MTA that's coming up in our Money Minute.
Plus, history and heartbreak at the World Baseball Classic Finals as Venezuela takes down Team USA for its first WBC title ever. We'll bring you highlights from last night's thrilling championship game. Up next, this is Morning News Now. We're back with a landmark legal challenge that's stepping up the battle between states and popular prediction market companies. Now, these allow people to buy and sell contracts on the outcomes of real-world events. We've seen people wager billions on everything from who would win the Super Bowl to the U.S. strikes against Iran.
Yesterday, Arizona's Attorney General filed the first ever criminal charges against one of the companies, Kalshi. The state accuses Kalshi of running an illegal gambling business without a license. The filing also claims Kalshi is violating state law by taking bets on at least 4 political races. That includes Arizona's governor's race, the Republican gubernatorial primary, its Secretary of State contest, and the 2028 presidential run. Now, Kalshi insists it is not a gambling operation. In a statement to NBC News, it says the charges are based on paper-thin arguments and that the company is subject to federal jurisdiction.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Danny, good morning. So I think some of this stuff, it just sounds pretty wild to people that you can bet on things like this, but that's what these companies are built around. And this company is actually involved in more than a dozen other federal and civil lawsuits. Arizona, though, the first state to file criminal charges. How does that change the stakes?
Interesting that you mentioned the lawsuits. Kalshi's actually been going on the offensive, going into courts, federal courts, and filing for injunctions as a preemptive strike against litigation by states. And yes, this is the first criminal case brought, but frankly, it was only a matter of time because Kalshi was daring these states to bring charges by essentially filing suit and trying to get injunctions against the states. Arizona, I think, sent a cease and desist letter last year in the middle of the year. So this has been on the horizon for some time. But at the core of this is really 2 huge issues. The more obvious issue is this gambling? It sure feels like gambling. If I can bet on the Patriots, that's gambling. But if I go get a futures contract through Kalshi, then somehow it's not gambling. And the same thing with elections, which is why Arizona is involved, because Arizona state law prohibits gambling on elections. So is this commodities, is this futures, or is it gambling? But as a secondary, very important issue, is this something that is regulated by the federal government for commodities futures, and therefore states cannot be involved? Or is it a kind of minimum regulation that states can still regulate, for example, with marijuana, where you have federal legislation, but also state involvement?
Danny, let's talk more about that. Kalshi arguing it is under federal jurisdiction. Is that a strong argument for them? I mean, what are both sides going to argue?
It's their best argument. I mean, Kalshi's argument is that these are not bets. These are commodities. That's why they're called contracts. It's like when you bet on, you essentially bet in the stock market on futures. So that's Kalshi's strongest argument. And their second strongest argument is not only that these are commodities, but they're commodities, and therefore we are subject to regulation by federal regulations. And due to a doctrine called preemption, under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, the thinking goes that if the federal government intended to occupy a space, for example, making money, currency, right? Indiana cannot coin its own currency. Why? If it tried, it would be knocked down by the Supremacy Clause. So that is Kalshi's second argument that they have to make, that the states can't even touch them no matter what.
We also mentioned a major part of these charges relates to wagers that are being placed on Arizona's elections. Betting on elections is illegal in the state, so do prosecutors have a strong case in that regard?
If they're wagers, they sure do. But Kalshi's going to argue, no, these are commodities. And again, their argument's going to be twofold. Number one, Arizona can't even regulate us because there is a regulatory agency in the federal government that takes care of regulating us. We're exclusively regulated by the federal government. But Arizona's going to say, number one, these are bets. This is gambling, and we can prosecute you. But even if these are commodities, all federal regulations do is create a floor. States can also regulate. The federal government was not intended to occupy the space entirely, so the states can bring these charges.
Is this the kind of thing that's new and interesting, and the Supreme Court might want to take a look at the issue?
Yes. I think the issue of whether this is gambling or not is fascinating, but maybe more interesting to the Supreme Court is this issue of what's called preemption. In other words, does commodities, futures, trading, all of this stuff, does the federal government regulate that and nobody else? No state, no local prosecutor, or instead, did the federal government create a regulatory minimum and the states can enact their own legislation?
All right, Danny Cevallos, thank you as always. Well, we've got more money news now. New York's transit authority is going after the Trump administration in court with millions potentially on the line.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Good morning, guys. New York's MTA says roughly $60 million in promised funds haven't been paid, putting a nearly $7 billion expansion of the 2nd Avenue subway at risk. The extension would bring service deeper into East Harlem and ease overcrowding, and was included in the original proposal in the 1920s. Officials warn that funding delays could drive up costs. And another system in need of more cash, the U.S. Postal Service is warning it could run out of funds within a year. During a hearing in Washington yesterday, the USPS leader told Congress it might not be able to deliver mail without changes like higher postage rates or increased borrowing authority. While lawmakers on both sides agree that action is needed, they're divided on the best solution. And Costco is going big this Easter, really big. The retailer is selling a 10-pound chocolate bunny named Pete. It's made from milk, white, and dark chocolate, and according to the instructions on the box, Pete is to be wrapped in a towel and then smashed with a hammer, mallet, or rolling pin. Another product that could help retailers like Costco turn a seasonal treat into a viral moment and potentially big sales. Guys, the price of Pete is about $113, and I am sorry to report that I tried to look into getting us one, but Pete is unfortunately out of stock here at our local Costco.
There we go. And we don't have a hammer or a rolling
Maybe she would have
pin.
provided that as well.
Us one for
Exactly.
sure.
There's going to be some trips to the hospital along with those viral videos. All right, thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. All right, even though Team USA lost, the streets of Miami and beyond were alive with celebrations last night. That's because Venezuela was crowned champions of the World Baseball Classic. It was a dramatic 3-2 win over the Americans, giving Venezuela its first Classic title. Venezuela led for most of the game. That was until Bryce Harper of the U.S. tied it with a 2-run homer in the 8th. In the end, though, it all came down to some late-game heroics with Eugenio Suarez driving in the go-ahead run with a double in the 9th.
Check out this watch party we're going to show you on your screen now in Caracas. It was also the first time Venezuela even made it to the finals of the tournament. Now fueled by passion, swagger, and unity, the Venezuelan team surprised the world by taking down 2 of the tournament favorites on their way to this historic win.
Let's bring in here for more on this the host of Front Office Sports Today, friend of the show, Baker Machado. So, I mean, here's the people thought, like, okay, USA might win. If not them, Japan. If not, I mean, like
yeah,
Venezuela was not on the list.
Very low on the list. All the more reason why everybody is celebrating this. And you're absolutely right. What a showing for Venezuela with that 3-2 win. Dominated throughout pretty much the entire game last night up until about the 8th inning, as you mentioned, when Bryce Harper tied up the game at 2 apiece. This, of course, their first ever finals. They've never made it at all. The United States was always in the finals. This was the most stacked United States team we've ever seen at all. And of course, this came after big wins for them against Japan, who had won the tournament before, and Italy, who became the tournament favorites and the darlings of all of this. The United States, guys, even though they had the most stacked lineup we've seen in forever, they went cold. They hadn't scored a run in 17 of their last 18 innings. And they basically didn't have a single person on base to score until the 8th inning last night. night. So nobody in scoring position for quite a while. So outside of that Bryce Harper home run, really a terrible showing in this for the United States.
There's only been 6 World Baseball Classics since it began 20 years ago. So how's Venezuela remembered among those winners?
I mean, this is just going to be incredible. And obviously, we'll talk about the political angle in all of this as well. But you mentioned Eugenio Suarez, who plays for the Reds. He had the go-ahead double in the end, in the 9th inning. And he said at the end, this country, Venezuela, needs this happiness with all the things that we've been going through right now. And of course, this was being played in Miami, which in many ways was a home game for Venezuela last night, because the Miami metro area has the highest concentration of Venezuelan immigrants at 250,000. And I would say most, if not all, of the 36,000 people at the ballpark last night were cheering for Venezuela last night. If you're a Marlins fan, you've never seen that many people at that stadium ever. And that is the jubilation you saw right there.
I mean, Team USA, they've made it to the finals the last 3 classics, only won the one. And that's surprising because the lineup is so stacked and so loaded. I mean, do you think the next time this comes around, they're going to have a lineup? Just how do they make it even better?
I don't know. And that is the big question, because now we won't get this for another 4 years. Obviously, we'll have the Olympics, which will be the first time we think ever that the Major League Baseball players will be able to compete in the Olympics. And that'll be in 2028. So, yeah, this won't happen again until 2030. And you already have manager Mark DeRosa of the U.S. saying he wants to come back and manage this team. But a lot of people have been very critical of his managerial style because he's benched or not played a lot of the big stars in the United States during this tournament.
There's obviously, as you mentioned, a political backdrop going on here between the U.S. and Venezuela. Just months ago, the U.S. raiding Venezuela, capturing its leader. Did that factor in here at all?
You could feel it. Obviously, the Venezuelan team didn't talk about it until at the end of the game last night. And I want to read this quote from Venezuela manager Omar Lopez. He said, "This was an example to show everyone that we're not bad people and we're fighting to have a united Venezuela again, a Venezuela that is peaceful, a Venezuela that can grow." He basically said that this went on to demonstrate that this team can unite 30 million people behind everything that's been going on right now. So absolutely, you could feel this in the air throughout the entire tournament.
How disappointed was Team USA and the players on it? Because they really wanted to win this, and they thought they could.
Exactly. They feel very disappointed. And by the way, only 8 more days until the Major League Baseball opening day starts. And so there was a lot of concern that a lot of the teams in Major League Baseball weren't going to allow a lot of their players to compete in this because you didn't want to get them injured for the beginning of the season, which is why maybe there's some talk that maybe they will change the format of the tournament to maybe have it in the middle of the season so guys are already warmed up and ready to go, because a lot of the guys were cold and rusty for a lot of this as well. But yeah, this is basically a major disappointment for the United States. As you mentioned, this is our 3rd straight time going to the finals, and we've only won it once, and that was in 2017.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I guess the Olympics.
Yes, exactly. Yes, we got time.
2.5 years. Thanks, Baker.
Thank you. Coming up on Morning News Now, so goated, literally, a group of elementary school kids getting reading help from some unlikely study buddies.
A person, they can correct you when you're wrong, but a goat, they just listen. They don't think anything's wrong. They like to try to eat your book.
After the break, we're going to take you to Georgia, where a new program is bringing some farm animal fun into the library. Don't go to anywhere. We'll be right back. Finally this hour, a creative way to boost reading scores at one elementary school in Georgia. Reporter Caitlin Ross with our Atlanta station introduces us to the kids who are helping out.
Once upon a time, there was 3 billy goats.
Opening a book opens worlds for children.
Trip, trap, trip, trap.
Reading aloud takes courage and grit.
Sometimes they'll get distracted and talk to other friends, or they'll criticize you about what you're reading.
At Bright Star Elementary School,
then the big billy goat.
These kids are getting a new reading buddy.
It feels funny, but it's also like, oh, now you're reading to something else.
Something that makes reading a real treat.
They like to try to eat your book.
I think he's trying to have a chomp.
A brand new program pairing kids with kids.
You can't get that anywhere else.
Comet and Cosmo are the school's new reading goats.
Sometimes they'll plop down on a beanbag with them. Sometimes they'll nibble on a book, and other times they'll just kind of stand there and look at them. But they're very attentive.
I've got 2 horns and 4 hard hooves.
That attention matters.
Beatrice glared out the window.
According to the Georgia Council on Literacy, 60% of students in 3rd grade are not reading at grade level in the state.
A cat has her habits, a human has his.
Media specialist Elizabeth Shaddricks says says programs like this,
cats have moods like many creatures,
give kids the chance to practice without pressure.
It's important for them to be able to read without feeling like they're doing it wrong. It's nice to just have that confident booster to come in and read.
One time he grabbed a book from the shelf and tried messing with it.
She says the goats make reading fun and funny.
Excuse me, comment, nobody books.
They take a nibble, but the goats never make a judgment.
A person, they can correct you when you're wrong, but a goat, they just listen. They don't think anything's wrong.
These kids making the students feel heard and understood.
And no doubt the kids at other schools are going to want to give that method a try. Thanks to Caitlin Ross for that report. And if you're a visitor to that media center, you're like, why are all these books bitten?
Yeah, exactly. Taking a chop.
These children are hungry. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for starting your day with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, pressure and pullbacks, a fresh show of force from America's military overseas. Central Command announcing new strikes on Iranian missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. Well, back in Washington, President Trump dropping his global appeal for help defending the vital oil pipeline after a poker-faced reception from allies.
So this was a great test because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
All of that as Intel Chief Tulsi Gabbard prepares to face top lawmakers on Capitol Hill today in the wake of the stunning resignation of one of her top officials. Also this morning, the 1-2 travel punch that's kneecapping airports across America, leaving weary jet setters stuck in the middle. A late winter wallop from Mother Nature adding more than a little turbulence to the TSA staffing nightmare. To make matters worse, the administration now hinting at grounding entire airports in the middle of a bustling spring break rush. We'll have the latest in a moment. Plus, we've got our eyes on the Federal Reserve today ahead of another pivotal decision on interest rates. Could the ongoing war with Iran, along with a shaky global oil market, force the central bank into playing a steadier hand here at home? What it all means for your bottom line, coming up. And later in the hour, a brand new study laying out a startling labor market prediction, why women in the workforce could be impacted most by AI's meteoric rise. That's an eye-opening. It was in the Washington Post. Takes a look at what jobs are going to be most affected, least affected by AI. We're going to dig into it.
A smart conversation to start having now.
Exactly. Let's begin this hour with the ongoing war with Iran. The conflict showing no signs of slowing down as strikes continue today across the Middle East.
Overnight, Iran targeted Israel with missiles carrying cluster warheads in what the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says was retaliation for Israel's assassination of its security chief. That is according to Iranian state TV. In a brief phone interview with NBC News this morning, President Trump dismissed Iran's retaliatory strikes on Israel, calling them, quote, nothing compared to what happened to Iran. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us now from Israel with more. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. I am right now on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, the site where one of those cluster bomb munitions exploded. If you look up, you can see it hit the top of that apartment building where the balcony is mostly destroyed. An elderly couple was inside. They were making their way to the safe room, but they died just feet away from getting inside that room and getting to safety. This is a cluster bomb as it detonated midair over Tel Aviv while we were filming. Looking like a meteor shower, each light is a small bomb falling indiscriminately on the city. At least one hit an apartment building, killing an elderly Israeli couple, according to first responders. Others hit a train station, causing only damage. While in Iraq, the U.S. Embassy has come under repeated fire. Pro-Iranian militias claiming responsibility. As now an internal message reviewed by NBC News reveals the State Department has ordered all embassies and consulates worldwide to immediately conduct security reviews. The latest barrage came after Iran promised revenge. Israel yesterday announced it killed Ali Larijani, a powerful hardliner who helped oversee a crackdown on anti-government protesters in January, when Iran's Basij forces, its internal enforcers, killed thousands. The Basij commander was also assassinated as the U.S. military continues its fight. U.S. Central Command announced it dropped multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions, bunker busters, on hardened missile sites along Iran's coastline near the Strait of Hormuz, saying the weapons posed a risk to the vital oil shipping corridor.
We knocked out things that nobody thought were possible to knock out. Today was a very big day already.
While Israel's war in Lebanon is escalating, the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah claiming to fire new, heavier weapons at Israel. Israel leveling this building in Beirut this morning after issuing a warning for residents to evacuate first. Several mainstream Israeli politicians are calling for parts of Lebanon to be turned into the next Gaza. And Israel is not slowing down in its campaign to eliminate Iran's senior leaders. Israel's defense minister this morning saying that in another Israeli attack, Iran's intelligence chief has been killed. The Israeli defense minister also said that there will be new surprises coming from Israel that will escalate the war both against Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Savannah, Joe, back to you.
All right, Richard, thank you.
As the war escalates with U.S. strikes on Iranian missile sites in the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump is now walking back his request for help from NATO allies. At the beginning of the week, he urged European allies to help reopen the critical waterway. Now President Trump says the U.S. does not need their help. A blockade of the strait has sent oil and gas prices soaring over the past couple weeks. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander joins us with the latest. Peter, good morning.
Joe and Savannah, good morning to President Trump. Of course, no stranger to antagonizing the U.S.'s NATO allies, fiercely criticizing those countries since his first term. And now the allies are refusing to help the U.S. clear the Strait of Hormuz, insisting they were not consulted before the president struck Iran and that this is not their war. All of it infuriating the president as growing divisions over the conflict emerge within his party.
This morning, as President Trump tries to stop the war in Iran from further driving up oil and gas prices, he says the U.S. will go it alone.
We don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually.
Just days ago, the president had urged other countries, including European NATO allies, to join the U.S. in securing the key Strait of Hormuz that's been choked by Iran, causing chaos for global oil prices. But the president's request for help has largely been rejected by European countries.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake.
It comes after years of the president attacking the global alliance.
What we have gotten out of NATO is nothing.
Now defiant.
This was a great test because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
While under pressure over the economy, the cost of an average gallon of gas now $3.84, one of the president's top advisors tried to downplay concerns about the impact of a prolonged war.
If it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's really the last of our concerns right now because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
The White House also responding to a high-profile resignation from the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, posting, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation." The president firing back.
I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security.
Kent, a retired Green Beret and longtime Trump supporter with a history of promoting conspiracy theories and an association with far-right figures, is facing criticism, including from Republicans, for adding, "It is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby."
It just goes back to some of the oldest anti-Semitic tropes.
Also today on the Hill, the confirmation hearing for President Trump's nominee to replace outgoing Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. It's Republican Markwayne Mullin, the Oklahoma senator, is widely expected to win confirmation, but he's also certain to face tough questions about how he will lead the agency in the wake of Noem's controversial tenure marred by the shooting deaths of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. Republicans think the hearing is a chance really to hammer home the need to fund DHS with the partial government shutdown now in its 5th week. Democrats want to know what changes Mullin is willing to make in the administration's immigration crackdown. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Peter, thank you.
For more on this, let's bring in Professor Javed Ali. He is an associate professor of practice at the University of Michigan's Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy and a former senior U.S. government counterterrorism official. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. So let's go back to Joe Kent's resignation there. Were you surprised by that news?
So, Joe and Savannah, nice to be with you. And certainly a stunning development from within President Trump's inner circle in the national security world. Joe Kent's resignation. He's the first person to leave that national security team. And unlike Kristi Noem, who basically got fired, Joe Kent resigned on principle. So this is a pretty significant development. And the fact that he is the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, that is a presidentially appointed Senate confirmed position. I myself worked in the National Counterterrorism Center in the late 2010s before I went to the National Security Council. So I absolutely know the organization. I've known all the previous directors. I didn't know Joe Kent personally. So this is a pretty big deal.
Based on your experience, I mean, what are the qualities you think make for a good director of the National Counterterrorism Center? And I know you don't know Kent well, but based on what you saw, Peter mentioned some of the conspiracy theories. Was he a good fit for that role?
So based on my own personal experience of having known almost all of the directors, they all had deep experience in intelligence, counterterrorism, the military. And so those were and then also knew how Washington worked as well. And so those were the sort of attributes that every director had for 20 years, because NCTC has been around since 2004. Joe Kent actually has a lot of experience in counterterrorism and intelligence based on his extensive military career, which you noted, but that experience was very different because it was more at the tactical and operational level and not at the strategic level. And he had I don't think it ever served inside of DC in a senior role. And I don't think it managed a large organization either. And so those are the leadership qualities other previous directors has had. But then you take sort of that different profile with him on top of the more controversial aspects of his just personality, and he was very unconventional. And so maybe the fact that he's resigning about a year into his term isn't that surprising, just given how different he was from all the other previous directors.
We're sort of seeing this division here in President Trump's base revealed by this. Do you think other officials appointed by the president could follow suit?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Obviously, I'm not in government, have been in government for 8 years now. But with Joe Kent's resignation, even yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard, and you mentioned this, his boss as the director of national intelligence, instead of maybe perhaps saying something to support Joe Kent, went in the other direction in her statement and basically supported President Trump, who is her boss. And she said that based on all the information President Trump had in the run up to February 28th, that President Trump, as commander-in-chief, made the decision to launch the military operation, and whether it was the totality of that information suggested the threat from Iran was imminent or not, that she sort of supported him. So she seemed to be kind of breaking ranks with Joe Kent and more supporting President Trump. So I doubt we'll see others do what Joe Kent did, at least in the next few days, if not few weeks.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Some of the severe weather is what is adding to this ongoing travel chaos.
Yeah, so meteorologist Angie Lastman joins us with more on your forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. We've got some chilly air in place across specifically parts of the south, but a lot of the east. Let's start with those freeze alerts, though, stretching from Louisiana across parts of the southeast down into the northern portions of Florida. And we're going to see more than 21 million people this morning dealing with those temperatures flirting with freezing. And the potential is there for a couple of record lows. We're looking at Mobile, Wilmington, temperatures right around freezing in both of those spots, waking up to the chilly conditions in Atlanta as well. 35 degrees in Nashville this morning. Those temperatures are going to have a tough time rebounding even as we get into the afternoon hours. Across parts of the Great Lakes in the Northeast, the chilly conditions have settled in there as well. 17 degrees in Detroit right now, but feeling like just 9. Those single-digit feels-like temperatures in Green Bay as well. 15 degrees for your actual temperature in Pittsburgh, 26 in New York, and just 18 for what it feels like when you get out the door this morning in New York City. Meanwhile, the western half of the country is just baking. We've got this kind of strong high-pressure setup that's sitting over this portion of the country. All of that means that we we've got sinking air, keeping all that warm air trapped at the surface. And that is exactly why over the next couple of days, we're going to be concerned about the heat and heat illnesses across this region, with more than 38 million people under these alerts. So here's what we're dealing with as far as that record heat. We've got LA expected to hit 96 degrees, 100 in Phoenix today. I know we expect it to be hot in Phoenix, but that's more than 20 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. It's the 80s across the Rockies. Denver tapping in at 80 degrees this afternoon. Dodge City, Wichita Falls, Roswell, you name it. We are all at least getting into the 80s for the day today. Tomorrow, not much of an improvement. 90s in Sacramento, 80s still in Denver and Amarillo. El Paso ends up at 91 degrees. And you look even as far east as Little Rock and Topeka, 80 degrees. Those above normal temperatures lasting for the long haul as well. We look to the end of the week, 100 degrees in Las Vegas on Friday, mid-90s. That's all the break that you're going to get by the time Sunday rolls around. And even Oklahoma City, we hang out into the 90s as we roll through the weekend. 89 degrees in Saturday in Denver. So really warm conditions settling in. Otherwise, we've got some quieter conditions on our satellite and radar. Most of the west quiet, but a couple of these snow showers that we'll be dealing with across the Great Lakes and parts of the Midwest. Back to you.
We'll take the quiet, Angie. Thank you so much. In economic news, the Federal Reserve widely expected to keep interest rates unchanged when policymakers meet later today.
The decision comes at a moment of major uncertainty for the economy. Soaring oil prices due to the Iran war are fueling fears of a new inflation spike. On top of that, President Trump continues to criticize the Fed and Chairman Jerome Powell for not cutting rates. Here's what he had to say about Powell on Monday.
I call him too late because he's always too late with interest. Should cut interest rates. He should cut them right now. They should have a special meeting. What's a better time to cut interest rates than now? A third grade student would know that.
NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins us now in D.C. Brian, good morning. As we heard there, the president aggressively pushing to cut interest rates. He is almost certainly going to be disappointed today. Why is it the Fed is expected to keep them where they are?
Yeah, good to be with you, Joe and Savannah. The expectation is for the Fed not to cut interest rates when they do announce a decision at 2 p.m. Eastern time today. And that is in part because of all the uncertainty that's going on out there, especially with the war in Iran breaking out since the last time they had a meeting at the end of January. So with the Federal Reserve, again, expected to not hold, or rather do nothing essentially with interest rates, there is this question of whether or not the president's pressure to try to get the Federal Reserve to more aggressively lower interest rates is going to put Jerome Powell in the crosshairs of what could be an extended tenure at the central bank. I should point out that even though the president has nominated Kevin Warsh to replace him, because of the standoff in the Senate, where Republican Senator Tom Tillis has said he will not advance a nominee while there is that ongoing investigation from the Department of Justice into the Federal Reserve. You'll recall they subpoenaed them a few months ago. Well, that could mean that Jerome Powell might stay in this role longer. That's something that we're going to have to listen for, because if this is a Fed chair that's going to be dealing potentially with this role longer, that could also mean more complications, especially if that war in Iran does remain in place.
Brian, so we've had these recent things happen, the war in Iran and then spiking oil and then those new fears of inflation because of all of that. Do you think that we are likely to see any cuts at all this year as we move forward because of these things?
Yeah, so again, if the expectation is that the Fed's not going to cut interest rates today, the next natural question is when might they cut interest rates going forward? They did cut rates 3 times last year, and that was pointing to some optimism that the Fed might see the economy in a place where they could further cut interest rates later on. But on one hand, you have the deteriorating job market where we had a contraction in the number of jobs in the month of February. Yes, that might say, okay, the Federal Reserve should cut interest rates to help alleviate pressures in the jobs market, but you don't want to be cutting interest rates into an environment where inflation could be going up as a result of, for example, higher oil prices, higher energy prices, which makes the cost of transporting people as well as goods potentially more expensive. The Fed's going to have a forecast where we'll see where they see interest rates going for the rest of the year, and the expectation is they might only telegraph 1 interest rate cut in 2026.
So, Brian, what does it mean for everyday Americans if interest rates are staying where they are for now and may not go down much this year, especially with oil prices and inflation ticking higher?
Yeah, well, the translation is that as oil prices and the price that you pay at the pump goes up, those borrowing costs are not going to go down. Again, if the Fed says, hey, we don't want to lower interest rates and potentially make inflation worse, then when you look at borrowing costs for things like credit card rates, which are close to 20%, you look at 30-year fixed mortgage rates, which were flirting with dipping below 6% earlier in the year, but now they're back up to 6.3%. Well, that is certainly something that is going to likely stay around those elevated levels if the Fed is not going to aggressively cut interest rates from here, which it doesn't look like they do. So for people that are looking at those bills saying, hey, when am I going to get a break on these higher borrowing costs? Unfortunately, the answer right now is the Fed's not going to lead to those rates dropping substantially anytime soon.
All right, Brian Chung in Washington. Brian, thank you.
We're learning new details in the search for Nancy Guthrie. It has now been 46 days since Savannah's mom was abducted from her home in Tucson, Arizona.
Police still don't have a suspect, but authorities say they have recovered some new images from Nancy's home surveillance cameras.
NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joins us now with the latest here. Liz, good morning. What can you tell us about these new surveillance images?
Well, hi, guys. Good morning to you. Yeah, we're now in the 7th week of this search, and the work is still underway to try to identify a suspect. A key part of that has been trying to find any new video footage. 2 people briefed on the matter tell NBC News that investigators have been able to retrieve additional images from some of the other home surveillance cameras on Nancy's property, but they say those images, unfortunately, do not show any new suspicious activity or any other movement on the night of the abduction. So for now, those previously released surveillance images from Nancy's doorbell camera are the only known images that authorities have of the suspect. And really, guys, the most important piece of evidence still that investigators have.
Liz, there have been some reports about a new date that investigators are focused on. What do we know?
Yeah, so as you guys know, early on, investigators put out that call asking residents in Nancy's neighborhood to just send in any potentially relevant video footage that going back all the way to January 1st, a month before the abduction. But neighbors tell us that when investigators have actually showed up at their home, they've also asked them about specific dates, notably the weekend, of course, of Nancy's disappearance, as well as January 11th. One neighbor tells us she was also asked about footage on January 24th. We did ask other neighbors if they were also asked about that date. The ones we talked to said that they were not. Now, neither the Sheriff's Department nor the FBI have said if or why they are asking about any specific dates. Although, guys, as you know, we do know that investigators are still looking at the possibility that the suspect may have visited Nancy's home prior to her abduction.
Liz, last week, the local sheriff told you they believed Nancy's abduction was targeted, but he wouldn't give any details. Have police shared any more about a possible motive since then?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question, right? Why did a lot of big questions, but really, why did the person do this? What's the motive here? And the sheriff did tell me last week, it was sort of surprising that from day one, he has had a theory of why the person did this and that they believe it was targeted. I did press him on it at the time. He wouldn't say what that theory is. And unfortunately, no, guys, the FBI, they have not said, the Sheriff's Department, none of them have said any idea of a motive at this time.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you so much. We've got much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the fight over fluoride in water supplies across America. The Trump administration calls it a dangerous neurotoxin, but some new research is saying otherwise.
First, though, after the break, a life or death situation in Cuba this morning amid an energy crisis. It's now forcing the island's hospitals to take drastic measures for care. That is next. Stay with us.
We are back with the latest out of Cuba, where an economic and energy crisis has been spiraling since the Trump administration cut off oil deliveries to the island. The ongoing fuel shortages and power outages are now threatening the country's hospitals. NBC News correspondent George Solis joins us from Havana with a look at the increasingly dire situation. George, good morning.
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. No real proof of how fickle and fragile this power grid is. A lot of Havana waking up without power this morning. This after the country just got power back yesterday, and it comes as we got a rare look inside a Cuban hospital. We talked to doctors and cancer patients, some who are struggling to get treatment, others struggling just to get there. It really just complicates a situation that's already life and death with so many, and these conversations with the U.S. continue.
This morning, President Trump continuing his pressure on Cuba.
Cuba right now is in very bad shape.
After signaling for weeks that he may focus on the island nation after the U.S.'s involvement in Iran and Venezuela. The president saying yesterday,
"We'll be doing something with Cuba very soon."
Secretary of State Marco Rubio also weighing in.
Cuba has an economy that doesn't work and a political and governmental system that can't fix it.
In Cuba, residents struggling with the chaos. Inside this hospital in Havana, the threats facing Cubans are on full display, with doctors and their patients dealing with unpredictable power outages, issues that have gotten worse since the Trump administration blocked oil shipments from Venezuela after arresting its leader, Nicolás Maduro.
How much worse have things gotten since the energy blockade?
Muchísimo. Muchísimo.
Doctors say the outages, which could happen multiple times a day and last hours at a time, make it challenging to store medications that rely on refrigeration. medications that are also sometimes difficult to stock. But perhaps the biggest challenge facing both medical staff and their patients, just getting to clinics and hospitals for help. Yonel Quispolo Garcia has been receiving life-saving leukemia treatments for more than a year. She worries because she lives in a rural area, she won't have the transportation to get to treatments she so desperately needs. While in the U.S., the White House continues to push for change.
The people in charge, they don't know how to fix it, and so they have to get new people in charge.
Cuba's president on X saying in part that the U.S. publicly threatens Cuba almost daily. And as far as our visit to the hospital there, Savannah, one doctor telling me that staff there and themselves are going 6 to 8 hours without eating simply because they want to make sure their patients have something to eat. One doctor telling me he walks more than 3 miles to work simply because of the worsening fuel crisis here. Savannah?
All right, George, thank you.
Here in the U.S., new research is fueling the debate over adding fluoride to public drinking water. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has called fluoride, quote, a dangerous neurotoxin and wants to phase out adding it. The CDC, along with the American Dental Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics, all continue to support it, saying it can reduce tooth decay by about 25%.
A new report from the nonprofit CareQuest Institute for Oral Health looks at the impact a ban could have in 5 states. It found more than 130,000 additional dental procedures for children would be needed, and the ban would cost state Medicaid programs nearly $40 million in 3 years. It also links poor oral health to missed school and lower grades.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News medical reporter Erica Edwards. Erica, good to have you with us. So at least 16 states are now weighing some new restrictions on fluoride. Let's look at this new research. What stood out most in it? How big of a change could this mean for kids' health if using fluoride is rolled back?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. You know, dentists around the country are really bracing for what they are convinced is going to happen as more and more communities ban water fluoridation. That new report from CareQuest estimates that if just 5 states, Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Missouri, all ban community water fluoridation, more than 132,000 additional children would need to have a cavity filled or a tooth extracted. Now, Florida has already enacted that ban. The report estimates an additional 52 children in that state alone would need to have a cavity filled or a tooth pulled. And that's all going to cost money, right? CareQuest estimates nearly $40 million in extra Medicaid costs within 3 years. And of course, we know 40% of kids in the U.S. are on Medicaid. Joe, Savannah.
We mentioned that the report connects oral health to things like school performance and grades. Also, though, parents' work schedules. Walk us through the ripple effects here for families.
Right. I mean, think about sitting at work trying to concentrate when you have a massive toothache. Tooth decay is painful, makes it harder to eat and talk, right? And so studies have shown that kids with tooth pain are more than 3 times as likely to miss school and get lower grades. And of course, moms and dads, of course, play a big role in this when they have to stay home from work because of their kids' tooth pain or because they have unplanned dental visits. Nearly 6 million parents could be affected in just a single year.
It's a domino effect there. We do know there are 2 states right now, Utah and Florida. They're already banning adding fluoride to drinking water. Do we have any research on what's happening there and also what states are looking to do this next?
Yeah, so it's a little too soon to see any impacts on recent bans. Dentists say it's going to take a few years for the cavities they expect to see develop in children. Now, other states considering bans include Texas, Ohio, the Carolinas. Notably, I should mention, New Jersey lawmakers have proposed legislation to protect community water fluoridation. Joe, Savannah.
All right, Erica, thank you so much. Coming up, a high-stakes face-to-face between 2 world superpowers now put on hold.
When Morning News Now returns, why the White House is now delaying a critical trip to China, throwing President Trump's next meeting with his Chinese counterpart up in the air. That's next.
Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with an update on President Trump's plans to visit China. NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us with that and more. Megan, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, President Trump announced yesterday that he was delaying his trip to China, which was previously supposed to be March 31st through April 2nd. Now, he says he'll push it about 5 or 6 weeks. Remember, this comes after administration officials seemed to open the door earlier this week to the trip being pushed back because of the president's focus on the war in Iran. Now, the China trip was supposed to focus in on trade issues because tensions have been high between the two countries over the past year because of tariffs. Let's go next to the Senate, where Republicans voted yesterday to bring up the Save America Act, which would reshape elections across the country. If it's passed, the bill would require photo ID to vote and proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. It's a top priority for President Trump. Now, debate on this bill could potentially stretch days long, maybe even through the weekend. That's according to a GOP leadership aide. Right now, though, the bill does not have enough support to get past that 60-vote threshold in the Senate. Finally, let's turn to the FIFA World Cup, which kicks off in just a few months. Now Iran wants to move its matches from the U.S. to Mexico, pointing to President Trump's comments about the team's safety. Now, President Trump said last week that he did not think it was appropriate for Iran's soccer team to come to the World Cup, quote, for their own life and safety. A FIFA spokesperson weighed in, saying in a statement that FIFA is in regular contact with all of its members, including Iran, and that they're, quote, looking forward to all participating teams competing as per the match schedule. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Let's stick with politics for the results of several highly watched primary races in Illinois. NBC News projects that Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton has secured a big victory in the Democratic Senate primary. Stratton earned an endorsement from the governor there, J.B. Pritzker, on her way to defeating 2 sitting House members. Proved to be a pivotal and expensive race in the state. That seat opened up after Senator Dick Durbin announced his retirement from Congress. If she's elected, Stratton would become the 6th black woman to serve in the Senate. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster has been following all of this for us. Shaq, good morning. Massive victory here for Stratton, whose campaign spent the least of all 3 candidates in this expensive primary. Walk us through the significance of her win and just how she did it.
Yeah, a really big win for the lieutenant governor here, who, as you mentioned, overcame that spending disadvantage that she was facing really throughout her entire campaign. And, you know, when she was on the trail since the beginning of her campaign, which has been going on for about a year at this point, she really tried to paint herself as the more progressive, the more liberal candidate in the race. You heard her take out positions like $25 minimum wage, for example. Her 2 opponents said they wanted $17 increase to $17 an hour. She said that she would abolish ICE, going a little bit further than some of her other opponents. And also she said she would reject that corporate PAC money compared to the positions that her opponents took. And when talking to voters, as I was doing outside of a polling location yesterday, it was clear that they were looking for a more progressive candidate and the candidate that they thought would take on Donald Trump and the things that they're not happy with coming out of Washington, D.C. I want you to listen to some of those conversations I had yesterday.
President Trump isn't on the ballot, but he was top of mind for you.
He is, yeah. I want to do everything in my power as an individual, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, to stop what he's doing to our country.
I think our governor has stood up against no ICE. That was really appalling and frightening. Our neighbors and friends being attacked, completely unacceptable. We want to make sure that that never happens again.
You heard many of them viewing this almost as a proxy battle as they were going to the polls. We should also note that Lieutenant Governor Stratton got a lot of support from Governor Pritzker. That helped close that funding gap through his super PAC. He spent more than $15 million to support her campaign. You saw him out there on the trail, including yesterday. He appeared in television ads for her. This was a major test of his political influence, and it seems as if it worked.
Shaq, there are also 5 congressional seats open in Illinois this year. How did some of those races play out? And based on those conversations you were having with voters, just what stood out to you?
Yeah, you know, throughout the day, we said this would be a test of the mood of the Democratic Party, the Democratic base. These were safe Democratic seats. So it was really about these voters deciding who they believe is the best fighter to go to Washington, D.C. And at the congressional level, it was more of a mixed bag. You have in Illinois 9, for example, Daniel Biss. He is the mayor of Evanston. he has more establishment support, but he took off and fended off a challenge from a younger progressive candidate who had a huge social media following and also really was able to overcome a lot of outside spending against him in that race. Another one to watch, I think, is what you saw in the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. You just saw that graphic on screen. You have Donna Miller denying Jesse Jackson Jr. his comeback attempt. He, of course, was in Congress previously, but back in 2012, 2013, he pled guilty to a conviction, a corruption conviction. He was trying to make that comeback into Washington and was not able to do that yesterday.
Jack, we also had nominees for governor, secretary of state, attorney general on the ballot. What more can you tell us about these primaries and the roles they'll play when we get to the midterms in November?
Yeah, so we keep saying that Illinois is a pretty progressive state, so not as much drama there. But one thing to point out, Governor Pritzker, he is running for his third term, and he is now going to have a matchup against the same person who he was matching up against back in 2022. That's Republican Darren Bailey. Bailey winning his primary yesterday. This, again, is going to be another test for Pritzker, who very often, very commonly comes up in these 2028 presidential election conversation. So how he does in the general election will definitely be part of the conversation for years to come.
All right, Shaq, thank you so much. Coming up, no secret that AI is becoming increasingly attractive to corporate leaders across America. After the break, though, we're going to dig into an eye-opening new report that's predicting its future in the job market. So which industries might soon start feeling a little less human? We'll take a look next. Welcome back. As we've been reporting this morning, the U.S. military has been bombing Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz today as it tries to stop the country blocking the crucial waterway. Since the blockade began, countries in the Gulf are also looking for new routes to export oil. That includes mobilizing pipelines in Saudi Arabia and the UAE to avoid the Strait of Hormuz altogether. NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal has that story.
This is the Strait of Hormuz, the most important energy choke point in the world. Typically, about 1/5 of the world's oil supply flows through this narrow waterway every single day. But now, traffic has slowed to just a dribble, according to the White House, with only a few ships, primarily Iranian, getting through.
The Strait of Hormuz is the big one. It's always what intelligence analysts, military planners have been concerned about. We have never had an extended shut-in of the Strait of Hormuz.
But with Iran seemingly digging in and President Trump saying allies won't help secure the strait, what if there is an extended shutdown? The options are limited. There are a few pipelines that bypass the strait. The UAE's Abu Dhabi crude oil line gets the black gold to the west of the strait and closer to the open sea. And Saudi Arabia's east-west pipeline redirects more than 1,000 kilometers to the Red Sea. Together, they have capacity to move another 3 to 6 million barrels of oil a day, according to the International Energy Agency. But here's the thing. That is only a fraction of the close to 20 million barrels a day that are shipped through the strait. Iraq's oil minister also saying the country is working to restore the Kirkuk-Ceyhan pipeline, which would carry a few 100,000 barrels a day to Turkey. But it's been largely out of service for a decade from attacks and political tensions with the Kurdistan region. John Kildoff is the founding partner of Again Capital, a New York-based hedge fund focused on energy and commodity markets. He says the limitations of these pipelines make them difficult to rely on as a long-term solution.
There aren't really any good quick answers for this one, just because of the volumes involved.
Besides capacity issues, the pipelines are also key targets as strikes rain down across the Middle East.
All the energy infrastructure in the Persian Gulf is very vulnerable to attack.
And even beyond the challenge of just moving oil, access to the right kind of oil is key. Analysts at Goldman Sachs say the global economy relies heavily on medium and heavy crude, which comes directly from the Persian Gulf. Then that's refined to make fuels like diesel and jet fuel.
Is there any substitute for the Strait of Hormuz?
There really isn't. There really isn't.
And the longer it stays disrupted, the more pressure builds across the entire global energy system. Ali Canal, NBC News.
More money news now. Arizona's AG setting her legal sights on the massively popular prediction site Kalshi NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch is here with your Money Minute. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Joe. In this latest suit, the prediction market company is being accused of running an illegal gambling operation. The state is saying Kalshi took unlicensed bets, including on elections, violating Arizona law. The company faces several civil lawsuits over its legal status, but this case opens up a new front alleging criminal violations. Kalshi has denied any wrongdoing. And for the first time in decades, Nissan is planning on exporting U.S.-built vehicles to Japan. The company will ship the Murano SUV that's built in Tennessee starting next year, following similar moves by Toyota and Honda. The shift comes after President Trump pushed automakers to sell American-made cars in Japan. And Oscar gold losing some luster. On Sunday, the Academy Awards drew its smallest audience in years. The ceremony had 17.9 million viewers, a 9% decline from last year's show, according to Nielsen. It's also the first drop in viewership since 2021. The Oscars did have some competition. That's with a close semifinal game in the World Baseball Classic that took place Sunday night as well. According to Nielsen, that game drew in more than 7 million viewers. Now, to put everything into perspective here, Joe, a decade, 2 decades ago, the Oscars were seeing viewership in the 30 million to 40 million range. So a big drop there.
Oh, everything's dropping so much.
Times have really changed in that time.
Right. Thanks, Emily. Appreciate it. Staying with business news, we're looking at a new study that predicts how AI could impact the labor market. Researchers at GovAI and the Brookings Institute are trying to predict which jobs are most threatened by artificial intelligence and which workers may be best able to adapt to the AI revolution. The good news, they concluded many of the workers who are most at risk are also the best positioned to find new jobs. For more, let's bring in Kevin Shaw. He's a senior graphics reporter covering AI for the Washington Post. He took a deep dive into this study, joins us now with more on the findings. Kevin, good to have you with us. This was just a fascinating read, not just the content, but the visuals you all put together there. To start off, walk us through some of the jobs that are most vulnerable and those that seem to be the least exposed, at least right now.
Thanks for having me. So there are two dimensions to this story. One is how exposed are different jobs to AI in the first place? And that means how much of a job could plausibly be done by AI. And then the second dimension is, people are not static. They can make changes. They can change jobs. They can reskill. And so what this research did was put together those into one metric of who is the most potentially vulnerable to AI.
And we see right there, we have on the screen what some of the most adaptable jobs are. That includes web and digital interface designers, public relations specialists, marketing managers, the least adaptable, interpreters and translators, secretaries, administrative assistants, tax preparers. Your reporting also highlighted a really startling point that the most vulnerable jobs are mostly held by women, like an incredibly large number. I mean, what did the researchers say about this?
Right. 86% of the most vulnerable jobs are held by women, is what the researchers found. And that's, if you think about some of the jobs, the trade jobs tend to be, safer from AI, according to this research, than jobs such as like secretaries and clerks, and sort of administrative assistants.
As we said earlier, the workers who are the most vulnerable may also be in the best position to adapt. So what are some of the factors that seem to determine how well someone can adapt?
Yes, part of it was how much do the skills in certain jobs, how much are they applicable to other jobs? And the other piece was, where do these people tend to live? Do they live in cities where there are a lot of other jobs? Do they have a lot of liquid income, liquid wealth, where they would be able to, take some time to make a change in their skills?
Your article ends with the caveat that people should take this information with a grain of salt because there is a lot of contradictory research and opinions out there. Everyone's trying to study this. It's a new thing. What are some of the things that everyone does seem to agree on?
The biggest agreement is we can't predict the future. It's really hard to tell what will happen based on past technological advances. It's very difficult to predict. So this should not be a warning. I think it's more of a possibly a wake-up call to policymakers that we should be taking this seriously.
All right, Kevin Shaw, good to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing some of your reporting. Coming up, St. Patrick's Day in the rearview mirror. So today, instead of the Irish, we're talking about the luck of the Germans, the serendipitous high school swap that's keeping one small town in my beloved Minnesota forever in the hearts of a family thousands of miles away. We'll explain next on Morning News Now. We end this hour with a sweet exchange in my home state of Minnesota. An international student from Germany was assigned to a high school in a small town of roughly 2,000 people. Boyd Hupert with our Twin Cities affiliate shares a surprising twist to his journey.
Come to Coleraine, Minnesota. Stop by Greenway High School.
Hi, guys. How's the weekend?
And you'll find
gerrymandering.
A foreigner.
President Trump responded
in American government.
I'm learning a lot of new things here.
Henry Kukels is a German exchange student.
I mean, that's fun, obviously. Teaching him all, like, new experiences in Minnesota, you know.
But Henry's host family, brothers,
at home, I only had a sister,
are not.
Braden.
The stories.
Bryce.
Only. Twin experience.
What are the odds of this?
Maggie Vekage is a coordinator for FLAG, the exchange student organization.
Why would you do that?
That plays Henry.
He could have went anywhere in the U.S.
Henry, who mentioned on his application an interest in hockey.
I'm not really sure.
Henry, who was assigned
totally random
to Maggie, who happened to know that Greenway High had hockey.
I graduated from here in 2017.
But
yep.
She didn't know.
Yep.
The smiling boy in this yearbook photo, taken 38 years earlier.
That's me.
Another.
That's me.
German exchange student who'd grow up to be Henry's dad.
What school? Well, it was Greenway High School in Coleraine, in Minnesota.
We all just couldn't believe it.
All of a sudden, I got a message on my mobile phone. Oh my God, I'm going to Minnesota. Next message was, I will go to Greenway. That's your high school.
By accident.
It was by accident, yeah.
Maggie's first knowledge was this texted photo of a young Thorsten Kukels in his Greenway letter jacket.
We, kind of all freaked out. We got chills.
Now Henry walks the same halls as his father.
I wonder what classrooms he's been in.
Who's back in Cologne, Germany.
Kids coming up to him and telling him, well, my dad knows your dad. It's quite funny.
Braden said the same thing you said during PE.
When Henry's host parents had a commitment, a member of his dad's host family escorted Henry to football senior night. But of course, Henry also played hockey.
I remember my host brother looking at me weird because why would I pick number 35? That's a goalie number. I picked it because my dad had that number for football.
Hey.
Now, father and son share a moment and a dream.
Well, maybe we can we're able to walk through the building one day for real. He can show me around.
One thing's certain: the Kukels will not have to ask Greenway High twice.
That would be great.
I think it's safe to say it truly is a small world. Our thanks to my friend Boyd Hupert for bringing us that story. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stay with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.